Hello, everybody. You know who this is, and you know what we're all about here. This is Music Maniacs with me, Arknolia Stroke a Bean. And Wire said he's going to be a little late later, but he will be coming on later on because he has some errands he wants to take care of first. But first, we got to talk about this. Now, keep in mind, we're still doing our look into the 1980s there. I guess we're up about to 1984, 1985, if I'm correct.
1985.
Yes, that was an interesting year because a lot of good stuff came out that year, like Corey Hart's, Boy in the Box album, The Power Station, Arcadia, featuring both Duran Duran, members of Duran Duran. These were the two spin-off groups that group had during that year, and definitely got to dig into that. That's for sure. So we're going to be taking a look at that period there. Let me I'm running the mic over here, so you have to excuse me for that here. Okay, so here we got. So here's what we got so far. Now everybody now knows there was some issues between Ace Frehley and Paul and Gene from KISS. Apparently, for the past couple few years, Gene and Paul have slagged Ace's name into the mud, saying they don't want to work with him. They cannot deal with Ace's alcoholism. They cannot deal with Ace and Peter with their issues that they had in the past. Now, you may remember there was a time where Ace Frehley called out Gene for those remarks, saying, hey, take a look at yourself, Gene. You're a sex addict. You tried at one point hitting up on my wife. I've been sober for about more than 12 years. Peter has been sober and clean for the same amount of time. But yet somehow Gene and Paul will not allow Ace and Peter back into the fold. And in their places, they have Tommy Thayer on guitar, Eric Singer on drums, but they're wearing the makeup of Ace and Peter. Now, there are many stories saying that Gene and Paul, convinced Ace and Peter to sell the rights to their makeup jobs to Gene and Paul for Tommy and Eric to portray them. Because everybody knows, when we think of KISS, we think of the Demon, Star Child, Spaceman, and Catman. Nothing else and nothing more. So they got to keep that legacy going. Now, KISS is supposed to be calling it quits officially at the end of this year with some shows in MSG, Madison Square Garden. And when Ace was asked if he would make an appearance there to say farewell to the guys, he say he would do it if the money was right. That's all he has to say. Because, Ace still does albums. He puts out shows. He puts out a lot of stuff there. But they're mostly on independent labels. And he usually plays smaller venues that he used to back in KISS there. Now, last week, Fraley got on Eddie Trunk's Trunk Nation program on Sirius XM. And he stated that either Gene and Paul apologize for all the remarks they have said about Ace, or Ace is going to reveal some massive dirt on those two. And he stated he had about a book over 100 pages of these, of this particular dirt. Now, we waited about a week to find out if this was going to happen or not, but apparently we had thought at first it may happen because according to the clip that YR sent me early on, which is on his channel there, he stated that Paul called him up soon after that appearance on Trunk Nation, and apparently he told Ace, fuck you, Ace, and that was it. Now I'm going to play the clip that Ace mentioned on the Eddie Trunk show from earlier today. Wire recorded it along with some other bits from that particular broadcast. Here's the main one. Check it out.
From Paul, did he contact you?
Yes, he did. Not long after the show was over.
And
I was blindsided by the phone call because I saw his name come up on my cell phone, and I spoke to him 100 different times on that number, and that can be verified by Verizon, who is my cell phone carrier. So, I figured he was calling me maybe to apologize or at least explain why he said that. Maybe he meant it really more towards Peter than me, and whatever the case may be. But instead of an apology, I got a 5-second phone call which said, F you, Ace. I'm not going to apologize.
Ooh.
And hung up.
You can curse on this. So say that again. He said, fuck you, Ace?
He said, fuck you, Ace. I'm not going to apologize. And hung up. He wasn't even man enough to let me give a rebuttal and explain why I'm so upset or anything like that.
So this wasn't a voicemail. You actually answered the phone, and on the other end, That's what you heard.
No, it wasn't a text. It was a phone call.
And it wasn't a voicemail. You answered.
I picked it up because it said Paul S.
Right.
When it comes to the guys, I never write their full name. God forbid somebody finds my phone. They may not figure.
Well, there goes the response.
Yep, there you go. This is where YR cuts in there, and of course explains the whole rest of the situation here. Now, YR also has sent me some other audio clips of this, which I'm going to play as well there. Let me see if I can find it here. He said he created the Starman look and everything else. Let me get that up here. Here we go.
On my own makeup. I even helped Paul design his makeup. His original makeup, he dressed like the dog in Little Rascals. He had a circle around his eye. And he's never given me credit for this, but I'm going to tell all the fans right now, this is the truth. I swear to God, on my daughter's life, I said to Paul, why don't you try a star? You know what? I never took credit for it because we were all brothers. We were all working together for the same goal. Just like Gene, I'm going to be the first to admit that Gene wrote the breakdown section in Cold Gin. Dun, da, 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 bum, bum, da, da, da. He never took credit for it because Gene loves me and I love Gene, and it was just all for one and one for all back then.
Yeah, basically, hold on a second there. Right there. So basically, according to this, he helped create the Star Child look for Paul Stanley, according to this clip here. And Ace never got any credit for that, Now, here's something else here. I'm going to play this one here. It's another thing from the recording.
But you haven't done a record in 8 years, but I've done about 6. What's the problem? Did you lose your creativity? Thank you very much.
I'm looking at
Oh man, that's a big shot there. But then again, it makes a lot of sense. I don't think I remember. I think the last record that KISS put out was Monster, and that was in 2010, if I'm correct there. Now Ace had put it out other albums on his own, but some of them don't really get that much notice because they're on these small independent labels. And a lot of these independent labels don't really get out to the market that much there. Despite all these other labels being putting out records by this artist, that artist, whether it's Five Finger Death Punch or some other artist who's trying to be like their own individual, but mainstream wise, either way there, a copy version that singer Pink or whichever there. But a lot of these record labels, they need a lot of backing, and then right now the backing is, of course, Universal. But sadly, there are some parts of record stores, Walmarts, independent stores out there where some of these albums do not appear. And have these records get played on the radio, believe it or not, unfortunately there. Now, I'm going to play another clip here. Let's see what we got here there. That was sent to me by the great YR.
Well, that was a little too low. That was hitting below the belt. They can say, Tommy's a better guitar player than me. Yeah. Dream on. I'd like to see Tommy write 40 guitar solos like I've written.
Yeah, that's true. And that's him taking a shot at Tommy Thayer, wearing his makeup. Remember, their Tommy Thayer is now the new spaceman in the KISS lineup. And, of course, it's kind of like a disrespect to Ace. And the same thing with Peter Criss as well there. And here's another clip from Ace appearing on that show talking about, says he owns the makeup like this. Here we go. Give it a couple.
See, I get, and they're trying to say that they own my makeup? Sorry. I spoke to my attorney yesterday. He goes, you own the makeup. You license it to KISS. That's a fact. I don't lie. Call up Gene.
Let me ask you this then.
Yep, exactly. But like I said, the reason why they have Thayer and Singer wear the makeup of Peter Criss and Ace Frehley is because people want that particular KISS. Like I said many times, they don't want the Demon Star Child, Ankh Warrior, and Foxman being, of course, Vinnie Vincent and the late Eric Carr. And they're certainly not interested in the non-makeup KISS that ruled the 80s and early 90s there. They're more interested in the KISS, the main KISS, the KISS that did Christine 16, Detroit Rock City, Beth, Got to Choose, Cold Gin. That's a KISS that they want to remember. That's a KISS that they recognize the most. And of course, KISS is about giving the public what they want, so they have to go that superior route. Now, here's something else. According to this other clip that I was sent, Ace Frehley says he was loaded and leased out the makeup to KISS for payments. And it's downloading right now. It's going to come up pretty soon there. Here we go.
Talk about dirt because I don't want to stoop to their level.
I am too.
I don't want to tell people things that would really not make them like Paul and Gene. I think what I've said today, all I did was repeat stuff they've said.
Yes, and I think so too, and I told you that. I don't seek that stuff out. It's not good for
anybody. I wasn't going to stoop to their level and lie or come up with things that would shock people to the point where they wouldn't even want to go to their concerts anymore. I have proof of that stuff, but I'm not, I'm a team player, and I always was.
Yep, that's true there. Now, here's a little something here, and this is the last clip that YR sent me. He's basically being asked if would he ever rejoin KISS on stage, and I think he will, but it's for a percentage of some of the profits there, for a huge amount of money there. Here we go. There we go.
Yeah, you believe that like I...
Well, you're from outer space, so you should be able to see the future.
The garden?
Well, let me ask you a question. Just one thing.
What?
Here we are, early April 2023. Allegedly, the last ever KISS shows are early December of this year.
Yeah, you believe that like I believe, the moon is gonna turn green.
Right. Well, I'm with you on that because I don't believe any farewells ever from anybody. The proof is there. But hypothetically, so assuming that is the last, those last two shows, as we sit today, what do you give the odds of ever being on stage with KISS again at? 50-50, What would you say?
It all depends on money. If I get a formal invitation with a check, I'll be there. But they've got to have deep pockets. Because
They got to
if
make
it's
the
all that
offer.
abuse, they're going to have to pay for it.
And they've never made a
If they don't
formal
want to pay
offer.
me, I won't be there, ladies and gentlemen.
But I'm asking you, they've never made a formal offer to you at all, ever, about coming back
Absolutely
for
not.
Okay.
The only reason from what I understand, the shows are sold out. The only reason they sold that is they made innuendos that me and Peter were going to be there. They invited us. I wasn't invited. They lie all the time. Haven't they said we're inviting Ace and Peter to come up and play?
multiple
Or
times,
at least
yeah.
me?
Multiple times, yes.
Multiple times. Okay. So people bought the tickets. But I haven't been given a formal invitation or given an offer monetarily. And I'm probably not going to get one now after this interview. And guess what? I don't give a shit. My legacy is the first 6 or 7 albums. I don't know. You know, prior to Creatures of the Night is my legacy, and it will last from now till the cows come home.
And it's no surprise that's
I
the
got that
legacy.
from my mom. She grew up
that
on
they
a
sell.
farm in North Carolina.
And that period is the period they focus on and sell, without question. Hey, real quick, I saw on your social media.
Yeah, that's it. That's the last clip there that Wire provided me. You also forgot to mention the album Psycho Circus from 1998 there. It was the first KISS album with the original lineup since the album. Well, basically, I guess it was last album they did together was possibly Dynasty from 1979, and apparently Peter was not on some of the on tracks on that album. Unfortunately, they had somebody else filling in on the drums. Now, did you get all those loud and clear?
Yeah,
Wow.
they came here to. Yeah, I told you before, I saw Kiss on their farewell tour from, 10 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
They've had a few since then.
Yeah, it's true there. Ace was on the point was spot on that level there, because it's like, no real band really ever says they're done for sure. I mean, The Who was an exception to that. Black Sabbath said they were done with their touring days back in 1999
Well,
after their first reunion tour. And they went on and did more Ozfest gigs soon afterwards. They didn't finally call it quits until 2017.
yeah, and the Eagles, of course, did the same thing. And when they reformed and did their concert, they called that one Hell Freezes Over, because originally that was what they said when they quit before, was it'll be Hell Freezes Over before they get together
I
again.
remember that as well.
And
there.
they did.
Exactly. Yep. Looks like Satan was going to be wearing long underwear was a joke at that time there. And you know what? The Eagles are still together today. Thank goodness.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just, however, it's without Glenn Fry, unfortunately. It's now Vince Gill and Deacon Fry, Glenn's son, in that spot there, taking over his dad-ass place. But, it's just like...
I guess the only original in the group right now is Henley.
Don Henley, yeah.
Because Timothy B. Schmidt's not original.
Yep.
If he's still with them.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Walsh is not original. They lost... they fired.
Randy Meisner, the original bass player, he's been gone for ages. And I don't know the name of the other original guitar player that came in before Joe Walsh and Don Felder.
Yeah, and they had a third one, Richie something.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name.
And neither am I. But either way, it's like, the drama with involving KISS is like, it's when you think about it, and many of the hearts of the KISS purists out there, many people saying, it's not really KISS, it's just Gene and Paul with a couple of replacements for Ace and Peter. Eddie Trunk has been vocal about that situation many times in there. In fact, that's probably the big reason why Paul Stanley has a disdain for Eddie Trunk. It's like and plus with the flack that Paul has been using backing tracks, lip syncing like they were on some shows, that gave Chris some discredibility, and if you want to put it that way there. But now, let me go on to the side of Gene and Paul. Explain where they're coming from. It's no secret that Ace had a massive drinking problem during the early years of KISS. In fact, it got to the point where Ace actually got himself into a car wreck in the early 80s. He had to have a few operations on his face a few times, if I'm correct. Now, you got to remember, and Peter Criss was no squeaky clean. He was high on drugs a lot of times as well there. And he has been known to be a diva at times as well, according to many stories from Gene and Paul and everybody else associated with the KISS camp. Now, if you dealt with how many years of one's personal and professional issues for a long period of time, and all of a sudden you get back together with that individual and you find they haven't changed that much, they're still the same, they're still having the same drama tantrums, years on down the line, you're going to be like, I don't want to work with that person no more. Despite all the money being thrown in my face by all these managements, I cannot deal with this individual.
Yeah, because by and large, for the most part anyway, people don't change. I think the expression is that a leopard doesn't change its spots.
Yeah, sure there.
They will change, but not a lot.
Yeah. I mean, you got to go through really something drastic, to really change your outlook. You got to change your living style there. Like, for instance, if, say, this musician, drunk off his ass, beats up a concert goer, that concert goer takes that musician to court, sues him for a multiple amount of physical damages, hospitalization bills, and everything else that comes along with it. And that concert goer wins the case. The musician who did this act here, he's got to realize, hey, I messed up big time. I got to change. This is going to damage my reputation even worse. I don't want to, right. And plus you got to remember, there are a lot of people out there who have families, they don't want their kids looking up them and say, hey, your dad was that rock star who beat up this one concert goer when I saw him play at this venue here. I'm sure the child of that musician doesn't want to hear that. That's for sure there.
Right.
But I'm going to give you another example. Skid Row. We know their songs, 18 in Life, Youth Gone Wild, Monkey Business, My Enemy, all those songs from the last 2 years of the 1980s, Slave to the Grind, you name it. All those records, actually 3 records. The first album, Slave to the Grind, Subhuman Race. Now, Sebastian Bach, their famous or infamous frontman, he got booted out. Apparently because, he's left a very nasty voicemail to one of the members of the group because one of the members of the group turned down opening for KISS at their first reunion tour back that same year. Sebastian Bach, who, as you know, was a huge KISS fan, he called up this bandmate and just cussed him the fuck out. And in response, he got a voicemail saying, you're out of the band. We're done with you. Now, since that, Skid Row has gotten a different singer after different singer after different singer. Now, people have been asking him, will Sebastian Bach rejoin the group? Maybe you should get him back in the band if you want to be successful again. But what does Skid Row say? Oh, we're happy in the place that we are in right now. We are at peace. We are working this so smoothly. Why throw all that under the bus to get this diva back into the band? Because Bach has been known to be an absolute diva. Let me give you another example. I think I mentioned this before. The reality show that aired on the VH1 called Supergroup, featuring Bach, Scott Ian of Anthrax, Jason Bonham, the son of Bonzo, Led Zeppelin drummer John Bonham, rest in peace, and of course Ted Nugent, and the bass player from the band Biohazard. Bach was known to be a prima donna. He acted exactly like that during the whole taping of that show. Scott Ian at one point got so pissed off that, he had to call Ted Nugent over to talk to Bach. And Nugent basically says, hey, you got a gift that's beyond measurable. You have a talent that cannot be stopped, let alone replaced. And he said, no more drinking. Because Bach has been known to be an alcoholic a lot of times there. And, Bach was in a shock after what Ted Nugent said. He recalls on the camera how he and the bandmates would just have a few brews here and there, blah, 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 and all that stuff there. But, Bach, I'm sure, I know he's one of those super rock and roll guys, live heavy metal 24/7, even when you're in the shower, when you're eating your breakfast, or when you're sleeping at night. I live and breathe rock and roll, and a lot of times that kind of gets on the nerves of the bandmates, when you think about it. So, from Gene and Paul's point of view, it would be nice to have Ace and Peter back in the band, but in terms of the situations they had with those two in the past, it's kind of like, they're saying to themselves, I can't. We really can't. We're sorry, guys. Too many times we burned our bridges for you guys, and we cannot make a new one for you guys to cross over. That's basically how it looks, Now, as far as the dirt that Ace was supposed to be spilling, that's going to be damaging to their careers. Now, I talked to Wire earlier, and Wire said basically, according to Ace, he may not put out that information. He may not spill that dirt, which is kind of a shock to me because, we all want to know the details deep down inside. We all know, us being the curious little dudes that we are, we all want to know what's damaging their careers these info can be. But who knows what happens afterwards here. But when you think about it, we've heard everything else in rock and roll. We heard everything.
There's not a whole much unsaid.
Exactly there, unless it's something real damaging. And I guess we'll have to let that situation go for the next time until something comes up. But all in all, I guess, the issues between Gene and Paul and Ace Frehley are still going to continue on, I guess. But, they should at least, give Ace, some multiple amounts of credit. Because in a lot of ways, and I'm speaking on YR's behalf as well, because he mentioned this and he agreed as well, they did Ace dirty, as well as Peter, So, we'll have to wait and see what comes out after this. All right, there. So, shall we begin with the 80s, my buddy there?
Okay, we'll just start with 85, and hopefully we can get through 85 before we have to quit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Careless Whisper, Wham.
Yep, absolutely. It's one of his big ballads there from the late George Michael. What actually, believe it or not, it was actually released in the UK as a George Michael solo song. They just decided to make it a Wham song, a year later when it was released on their final record.
Like a Virgin, Madonna.
Oh, we know that song well left and right there. That was like, oh, dude, me and my buddy, Dennis back in Michigan, we would mock the hell out of that song. Like a virgin, bang for the very first time. Often because We just, because we were not fans of her, hear that song
Right.
made us cringe like hell, man.
Wake me up before you go. Wham.
Oh gosh, featured of course George Michael once again, him and the late Andrew Ridgely.
I want to know what love is. Foreigner.
Oh gosh, it's kind of funny. I had that album which that song came out of, Agent
Right.
Provocateur. There were a lot of good songs on that album, like She's Too Tough, Tooth and Nail, That Was Yesterday. But, that album, according to many critics, let's put it this way. One critic I read reviewing this record, he stated that there are many great times I had listening to Foreigner's music, like whether it's Double Vision or the first album, Head Games, the fourth album, and he ended it with saying, Agent Provocateur is not one of those occasions. It's kind of because there were a lot of things on that record that was not really just really needed a lot of work, lyric wise and everything else
Right.
there.
Right.
But that song became a massive hit. And then during their concert, just during their shows, they would bring out the full choir to sing the chorus of that song there.
Right.
And a lot of critics were like fuming over Foreigner. It's like, what the hell is this? Is this a gospel show or a rock and roll show? What the hell, man?
Daryl Hall, John Oates, Out of Touch.
Which is a good song there. And credit to Hall and Oates because they were able to fulfill one of their dreams, which was do a concert at the famous Apollo Theater. And they had both ex-members of the Temptation, David Ruffin, Eddie Hendricks, and they did a Temptations tribute there. That was recorded and released on a live album. And the whole performance of that was a big hit on MTV as well as on Top 40 Radio.
Tears for Fears. Everybody wants to rule the world.
Good song from them. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. And of course, the later song "Shout" would become a bigger hit. And I guess the song "Shout" was a description of what the name "Tears for Fears" stood for. Remember, it was based on the book, the same title. It was about primal scream therapy. And John Lennon was immersed into this therapy because basically what it is that the individual had a lot of pain inside, and they're asked by the therapist to recant all the painful moments, and the response would be a massive scream, yell, ah! And Lennon had a lot of scars in the back of his mind there that he had to let loose, And I guess Shout was about that, if I'm correct.
Dire Straits, Money for Nothing.
Oh, yeah. And it's kind of, when you think about it, it kind of like, even though it was a big hit on the MTV, in a lot of ways, it called out MTV for promoting these non-talent bands. When you think about it, the songs are not good, but the video was pretty good there. And basically, Mark Knopfler called it out in that song there. And let's not forget the backing vocals by Mr. Sting himself from the Police.
Right. Take on Me, Aha.
Yeah, that was a big hit on the MTV as well. The animation and the animation and live action in that video there.
Philip Bailey, Phil Collins, Easy Lover.
Which I still hear on the loudspeakers at my workplace. Of course, produced by Phil Collins, of course. You can tell by the production and the way the drums are played.
Can't Fight This Feeling, REO Speedwagon.
Yeah, that was when I guess what it was it a. I guess what it was it a breakup song or a I love you song? I'm not too sure. I should probably look it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I should probably look it up there. Let me get my phone here for a second here. Let me do this. Give me a couple of minutes, folks, here. Let me look this up. Blah, blah, blah. And let's see. Here we go. Here we go. Can't Fight This Feeling Anymore. Song by REO Speedwagon. Okay, came out in 1984 for the, let's see here. It's a power ballad by REO Speedwagon. It reached it, number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and held the top spot for 3 weeks. It was group's second number 1 hit, next to Keep On Loving You. And it was back in 1981. And apparently the background, he wrote the verses before he had a demo of it when he left REO briefly in the mid-70s. He finished writing the song in Hawaii while supposedly on a break while composing the album Wheels Are Turning, to which that song appears from. And the song is about a relationship Cronin had, but it took Cronin several years to come up with all the lyrics. And the inspiration for the song was the hurt that he felt when he first became attracted to a woman who was a part of his friend group. Cronin states that this woman was, of course, going out with my friend, so I kept it to myself. There was a group of us who would hang out together, and she was always there. Eventually, she and I became friends, but there was no hanky-panky going on. The more I got to know her, the more I liked her, but I couldn't say nothing about it. So
almost like Jesse's girl.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the first thing that came to my mind. And that song was based on a true story as well. Only the difference was there was no Jesse. It was somebody else. They just gave an alias name.
Right.
Like
next one I got is an
what?
infamous song. Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead there. I was going to describe that. He described the theme of the song, Kevin Cronin, is that moment in time where it gets too painful to be where you are and you know you have to change. But change is hard and you overcome that fear of change. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Next one I got is kind of an infamous song. Starship, We Built This City, which a lot of people started saying that was like a bad Starship song.
Oh,
Jefferson Airplane.
Oh, gosh. That was probably one of the most... There you are, YR. There you go. Yeah, I'm glad you're back on. Glad you're on the call, dude. Okay there. Yeah, we did. We covered the KISS story, and we played all the clips that you sent me there. What do you have to say about this? Because you had a lot to say about this as well.
Well, what did you have to say about it?
Well, I simply stated the reasons why they won't let him back in because they're still kind of cautious of the drug and alcohol issues that Ace and Peter had years before. But then again, you and I agree. They did Ace dirty. They did him wrong. And basically, in the other clip that you sent us, that he was high, he was loaded when he got him to sign the rights to the makeup jobs, So which is even more dirtier thing to do. That's taking advantage of someone while they're intoxicated, for crying out loud,
Yeah.
But then again, KISS have to, it's got to be the demon, the star child, the spaceman, Catman. That's a KISS that everybody knows and loves like the back of their hands. Wow. Not the non-makeup KISS or the Creatures of the Night KISS. That's basically, that's what KISS are about. They're going to please the fans. This is the KISS that we love, that we grew up in. Even though they're in their 70s and 60s and can't hardly sing no more. You have to use backing tracks. So, and we had a long half-hour discussion about that issue there.
Yeah, pretty much sums it up. I mean, he tours. Did you hear the one where he's like he has released all these albums and KISS hasn't released? I mean, he threw out the digs, but he didn't do any, dirt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I was hoping to hear some of that little dirt myself there. But then again, the other side of me tells me, with all the multiple stories about this rock star doing that rock star doing that, this rock star doing that, we basically about heard it all. unless it's something involving either the Lunanami or something, way atrocious, then we may not be surprised.
True.
That's true, yes. I mean,
True, brother.
gosh. I mean, well, I'm sure everybody's heard that story about what Robert planned to put in that girl's, what there in that hotel room there, in the bathtub. That's been the long story there. But anyway, we built this city by Starship. Annoying as damn hell. It was.
It's funny because a lot of people will point to that song and say, that is the worst shot song that any of the Jefferson stuff, Starship Airplane, whatever, ever did.
It was. And you know what? Here's something else. At this point, they had to call themselves the Starship and just the Starship only because Paul Kantner, who helped co-founded Jefferson Starship, he departed from the group. Yep, he departed in 1984. And the reason he did that is because it was becoming, a top 40, commercial machine instead of the rock and roll machine that they had originally planned the year before.
Right.
But he had since however, he took the name. He sued for partnership basically he wanted them to call him just the Starship, and they did. He took him to court.
Band.
Go ahead.
That band started out as what was known as Underground, and Jefferson Airplane in the late 60s. They were the ones that were, you heard on what at that point was FM radio, the underground stuff.
Yep.
That kind of band. Then they kind of moved into Jefferson Starship, where they were still producing that kind of music, but they were kind of toying with the top 40 thing, and then Starship went full bowl into it.
Yep. And Paul Kantner said, as I said, he sued for the ownership of the name. I guess they decided to call themselves just Starship now. And many members of the band, including Grace Slick, Mickey Thomas, and I guess the other members, they resented the shit out of him. They even said they even hate his guts for doing that. There was a massive war between Slick and Kantner for many years until about 1989, or a year before, when they all decided they reconciled and returned as Jefferson Airplane, minus their drummer. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, next song I got is Huey Lewis and News, The Power of Love.
From Back to the Future with Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd and Leah Thompson there. Big hit on. That was a...
Yeah.
Yep.
Ooh.
Go ahead.
Next ahead, Don't You Forget About Me, Simple Minds.
Yeah, that was a big... I remember that. I think that came out in the year before, and that was... Well, I think you're right. It was in 1985.
Well,
I got to two mixed
up. It's on
up.
the 80.
Yeah, it's an 80s
I'm
song.
reading right off
way.
the 85 charts.
All right, there. That was a big hit on the radio, and this was following their big commercial hit with that song. That was actually from the song. No, it's The Breakfast Club, the movie. Thank goodness it came to me at the last minute. The movie, the same name, directed by John Hughes. Rest in peace.
San Elmo's Fire, Man in Motion, John Parr.
Yep, featuring the Brat Pack. It's to say that some of the movies that were around that year were members of the Brat Pack. These young actors like Charlie Sheen, Emilio Estevez, Andrew McCarthy, Demi Moore, other Leah Thompson, Keith Sutherland, you name it. These are young actors, and the Brat Pack was the name of these actors there. And St. Elmo's Fire, the movie, was the pinnacle of that because of all the young stars emerging at that time. Oh, let's not forget Mr. Rob Lowe, who a couple years later after this would pioneer the celebrity sex tape.
Next one I got is Glenn Frey, The Heat Is On.
And we were discussing him earlier in his old band, the Eagles. And that was a big hit. That was in the first Beverly Hills Cop movie, believe it or not, there. Which I remember seeing in the theaters. And yes, it lived up to its hype, that's for sure. As well as the second one a couple years later after this.
Then we got the USA for Africa thing, We Are the World.
Oh my gosh. That actually, you know what? That was actually the U.S. version of Band-Aid's Do They Know It's Christmas? And the story about that is,
Right.
as you know, it was a benefit single to benefit the country of Ethiopia, which had a lot of starving citizens in there. And this inspired, other acts, to do the same thing, put out a charity single to fight world hunger. USA had USA for Africa. The heavy metalers had a hearing aid. All the Canadian stars, including Joni Mitchell, Neil Young, Glass Tiger, they had a project called Northern Lights. That was a big hit on Canadian radio, if I understand. I mean, they were all over the place, believe it or not. But it was for the same purpose, to fight world hunger. And let's not forget actually the whole Live Aid concert on that Saturday afternoon that year in July, where we had reunions from The Who, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin. We had Queen's greatest performance at Wembley Stadium that day. It was like a big bomb. It was a most talked about concert ever there. But the main question was, did the fulfillment get fulfilled? Did all the money go to directly to Ethiopia? Because according to many insiders, the government steals the food to keep them citizens from eating. Because a lot of these countries in Africa are ran by fascist dictators and tyrants. And if the people have no food in their system, how can they rise up, gain their strength, and fight back against this dictatorship? There you go. Put two and two together there.
Next one we mentioned a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
Tears for Fears, Shout.
Yep, the one I mentioned. I talked about it. Mm-hmm. Big song for them. Next to Everybody Wants to Rule the World.
Then we had Bryan Adams' Heaven.
Mm-hmm. Which actually was first featured a couple years back in a movie called A Night in Heaven with Christopher Atkins.
Then you had the Miami Vice theme, Jan Hammer.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Jan Hammer, got to give him his due. He not only composed some good music for that TV series, he did an album with the late Jeff Beck. He also did 2 albums with Neil Sean of Journey. And he's probably one of the first keyboard players out there to never sit down when he performs. A lot of keyboard players do that a lot of times, like Tony Banks, Richard Wright from Pink Floyd. Not Jan Hammer. He played, and the keyboards he often plays is like what they call a keytar. It's like a keyboard which you strap where you wear like a guitar, if that's what it's called there. You've seen that keyboard many times before in the past.
Then I got You Belong to the City, Glenn Frey.
Once again, from the same album, then the same TV series there. I mean, if it's I remember we did a special on the Miami Vice back in 2020 there, whereas it basically gave a description on how Miami was during the 1980s there. I mean, there are many stories that Miami was basically built on drug money, the same way Las Vegas was with the gangsters and all that shit there. But credit to the Michael Mann, the guy who created that show. He gave us a big description how law enforcement works when you're a vice cop. He also gave details on the background of some of the characters as well, especially Sonny Crockett.
Phil Collins, One More Night.
Good song from him as well. In fact, good album from him. No Jacket Required.
Then you had the Honey Drippers, Sea of Love.
Yep, they're covering, and we all know
Robert Plant
and Jimmy Page and Jeff Beck reportedly there. Still played on the soft rock stations during the night when they have their love programs. Here's some of the Serenade You, My Dear, Little Sea of Love. Come with me, oh my love. You get the picture there.
Okay. Okay, next one's a couple of movie themes from Duran Duran. A View to a Kill, The Wild Boys.
Oh, yeah. Well, The Wild Boys was, well, we all know The View to a Kill. It was the theme for the James Bond movie of the same name that came out there. It was Roger Moore and Grace Jones and the late Tanya Roberts. And, of course, The Wild Boys was featured on, it was a studio track on a live album called Arena. And they also had Arena, the video cassette. It's where the character Duran Duran from the Barbarella movie with Jane Fonda goes after the band Duran Duran for stealing his name. And it was like I guess the members are put through all these scenarios, these booby traps and such there while the music playing, and all this during a concert while Duran Duran is performing as well.
Then you got Chicago, their ballad years, You're the Inspiration.
Yeah, that was a big hit there. Big hit. It still gets played on some radio stations at satellite radios as well there.
Pat Benatar, We Belong.
That was a big song there from there. That single was from her, I should probably say. And here's something else. She was supposed to appear on the USA for Africa single, but she wasn't able to because she was pregnant at that time. So she had to lay low, but she donated all to profits and royalties from that single to the USA for Africa fund there.
Then you had Phil Collins again, Sussudio.
From the same album, No Jacket Required. Which I remember when I was living with my girlfriend in Detroit in 2012, her mother was playing a lot from that record a lot, and I have to say, a lot of good songs from the album. My personal favorite from that one was Long Way to Go, featuring Sting on the backup vocals there.
Then we got Sheena Easton, Strut.
Yeah, that's when she decided to go all out. Well, she was still a pop singer, but she decided to sway towards the edgier side in terms of look and the song topic of that song, as well as she had another song later on called Sugar Walls, which was composed by Prince.
Yeah, and I guess we know what that song's about. Anyway.
Yep.
Don Henley, The Boys of Summer.
Oh yeah, that was one of his big hits. That would help start the Don Henley solo streak that would happen for many years. That record had put out a lot of songs out there. I mean, like I forgot the name of the title, but it had All She Wants to Do Is Dance, and other songs like that as well there. I can't forget the other song.
Sunset Grill.
Sunset Grill. That was one of your favorites there as well.
Yep.
Yep.
Can't forget that one.
Absolutely. I know. That got played on the radio a lot of times during that year.
If You Love Somebody, Set Them Free by Sting.
Yeah, that was a good song. The whole album, when you think about it, is pretty good. It was a lot different than what the Police were doing there, but it was showing Sting's maturity. I mean, he had an all black backup band, including Bradford Marcellus, the brother of Wynton Marsalis, the jazz trumpeter. And apparently, Wynton was not all approving of his brother working with Sting. He criticized Sting's brand of jazz or music many times in the past there. But then again, Wynton was one of those guys that hates the typical persona of a jazz player playing his music in a smoky nightclub. He wanted to expand his musical horizons, needless to say there.
All right, real quick. I'm sorry, I was in and out. Family emergencies going on, but
Oh.
real quick, this Ace thing. I listened to the whole interview.
Mm-hmm.
The whole interview. So basically, what he was saying was, he went on Drunk Show last week.
Yep.
We all talked about that, and then right after the show, right after he got off the call, he got a call from Paul Stanley.
Yep.
And it was literally 5 seconds, and he said, "Fuck you." I don't know if he said no apology, you're not getting an apology, or just "fuck you," but literally hung up on him. And then so Doc McGee, the manager, Ace Frehley contacted him and was like, "What's that about?" Basically, blah blah blah. And so the manager contacted Paul, and Paul was like, "I don't know what you're talking about."
Oh, really?
And but Ace is saying, "I have the phone records, blah blah blah, blah blah blah, blah blah blah." He has no reason to lie.
Oh, wow. Ace should have, I don't know if it's able to.
See, people are like, I mean, especially when he's like, "I'll only do it for the money," like a big payment. Like people might come off bad to people, but it's like, bro, these guys in KISS has been trashing Ace, and Ace didn't get fired. He left the band. He didn't get fired. He left in like 81, 82 before.
Yes.
I think that Creatures of the Night album or something.
Yes.
And they were saying, and
he never played on it. They had a whole
but
bunch
they
of
credited it. They said he did, but like didn't they put the artwork?
Yes, they did on the front cover and in the video for "I Love It Loud." I mean, Vinnie Vincent had to step in his place throughout the whole tour for that album there, and he was, of course, the Ankh Warrior that I mentioned previously. And of course, I had other players, including this guy from Mr. Mister, or this other guitar player as well. Remember, KISS has a reputation for having ghost players on their albums a lot of times there. Like the album Unmasked, the whole album drumming was done by a guy named Anton Fink, who would later become friends with Ace Frehley and later joined his band Frehley's Comet years later. But, I have to wait and see what happens after this, after this whole scenario there. So, no chance this drama is going to die out pretty soon there. Huh.
I mean, Trunk's like, he's inviting, it's always open for Gene or Paul to come on, but Paul doesn't like Trunk because Trunk calls out lip syncing.
Yep.
I mean, but Trunk loves KISS. He's like his favorite band, but it's the type of thing where he hasn't gone to see this new KISS since 20 years.
Mm-hmm, yep.
And because, I mean, for one, it really started with why Eddie Trunk doesn't go to see KISS shows is because, like, they're using the same face paint and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that we mentioned many times, and I know Trunk mentioned this, 2 guys impersonating Ace and Peter, it's just, it's just not really it's not good in a lot of ways because, but then again, you got to remember, when people think of KISS, they think of the 4 characters that we know and love so well. And it has to be those 4 characters, not nothing else. If they came out with new characters for Thayer and Singer, the public could be like, what is this? We want the KISS. We want the Demon, the Star Child, the Catman, the Spaceman. That's a KISS we know and love as kids, remember?
But they won't have them on for they won't. I don't think they're gonna bring. Yeah. They're gonna bring the original back.
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
It's the same thing with Black Sabbath when they finally said goodbye in 2017. They had opportunities to have Bill Ward come in and play drums on their final ever show there, but did he? Nope, they didn't. So, and it may be the same thing with KISS, unfortunately. There. Which is sad because these are four brothers, and now those four brothers have split into two camps. So we got here an uncivil war within the KISS camp, needless to say there. Alright, so Arkies, so what's next on your list, dude?
Axel F. Harold
Faltermeyer from Beverly Hills Cop.
Faltermeyer.
Yep. And
Right.
Harold Faltermeyer, I guess, is he still around by chance?
I have no idea.
All right, because I know a year later there was a movie called Fletch, which with Chevy Chase, and it came out in '85 and
Right.
'84 there, and Faltermeyer came up with the theme song for that. Let me look it up here. Give me a couple of seconds here. Let's see here. Hold it up there. Here we go. Blah blah blah. Harold Faltermeyer. Okay, he's a German musician, and he's still alive. Composer, record producer. He's best known for Axel F. for Beverly Hills Cop, which became a big pop hit in the 1980s there. He also did contributions for the Top Gun movie and other movies as well there. And he did main titles. He also did the main title for Top Gun Maverick last year as well there. So he's 70 years old, so he's still around, thank goodness. Yep.
Phil Collins, Don't Lose My Number.
Yeah, which I gotta look up that song. I definitely gotta look up that because, you know, Billy, Don't Lose My Number. Because I know
No,
that tells a story.
Don't Lose My Number.
Okay. Don't Lose My Number. Song by Phil Collins. I'm going to look up that story there because the lyrics tell a story about some sort of individual there that's on the run. Let me look out here. Okay. Let me look at the history of that song there. The lyrics of the song were improvised, that he himself does not fully understand what they mean. Stephen Holder of the New York Times also agreed that the lyrics were very vague, sketching the outlines of a melodrama but withholding the full story. The song featured Collins' signature gated reverb drum sound. And it's a song that merges a Motown drive with a singer-songwriter's old charm and the vocal urgency. It was of a slightly mysterious DOR tune. And we all know the music video for that song was kind of like a spoof of all the other videos that we've seen in the past.
Okay, next one I got is Run to You, Bryan Adams.
Which is about infidelity. Which, by the way, we ought to do a little segment on the music show about all the songs talking about infidelity. We got to definitely have a song special on that one sometime soon there, because there was a lot of them.
Yeah. Glory Days, Bruce Springsteen.
Yep, absolutely. About growing old, missing those glory days.
Yeah. Then the next one falls in line with the theme you just mentioned. Till Tuesday, Voices Carry.
Yeah, man. And from what I understand, I think that maybe let me look at that song because I was told there was a entirely different subject about that song there. Let me get down here. Go to Google once again. All right. Voices Carry. Okay, song by Till Tuesday, featuring, of course, Amy Mann. Let's see. Give it a couple of minutes here. It's a song it was produced by Mike Thorne for the band's debut album. Let's see here. Let's see the background of the story here. There's been, here we go. There has been some debate over the subject on the inspiration of the song. One claims that it's an argument between Amy Mann and her mate Michael Houseman, and that inspired the song's lyrics. But producer Mike Thorne disputes this and say that the lyrics originally had Mann singing to another woman and that the gender was changed due to pressure from the record label. Ministry frontman Alan Jorgensen claims that the song was inspired by a brief relationship he had with Amy Mann while living in Boston, Massachusetts. I always thought it was about a woman, who was in an abusive relationship, judging by the lyrics of the song here. I try hard not to get so upset because I know of all the trouble I will get. That was kind of like an indication. What do you think about it there?
Okay. Eurythmics, What I Lie to You?
Yeah, that was a big hit for them as well. It's a kind of a change in sound for them. They were no longer this electronic pop duo. They were now doing this full rock song.
Paul McCartney, No More Lonely Nights.
Yeah, featuring David Gilmour on guitar from Pink Floyd, of course. Good song and good playing from David as well. And that was from a movie he put out called Give My Regards to Broad Street. And I didn't really see that movie there, but if I understand, it was not that good, basically, for I understand. But that song became a massive hit.
Yeah, I believe London Town's from that too.
Yeah, and by the way, here's something else. Gilmour, credit to him, was all over the joint. He was all over the place on various records there. Besides from this song, he contributed guitar to the album So Red the Rose by the group Arcadia, one of the two spin-off groups that Duran Duran had going on that year. He played on most of the tracks of that album, So Red the Rose. Great album. If you ever get a chance to listen to it, everybody that's listening, do not, if you see it by chance at a used record store, whether it's vinyl, cassette, CD, buy the damn thing and enjoy it to hell. Absolutely there. And then also, Gilmour also contributed to the Supertramp album, Brother Where You Bound, where he played on the title cut, which took up all the side two. So Gilmour was everywhere. Go ahead. Sorry.
Next song I got is kind of a suggestive song. Well, I think that's the story. Bryan Adams, Summer of '69.
I see there. That I remember when I was living in Richmond, Michigan. That song was often done a lot by on various karaoke nights there. All these these mainstreamers would pop in that song and start singing along to the backing track there. That was a bit. Again, that was a big hit on the radio and MTV as well there.
Katrina and the Waves, Walking on Sunshine.
I remember that song a lot.
The Power Station, Some Like It Hot.
Oh my gosh, that's the other group that featured members of Duran. Both came out the same year. It was John and Andy Taylor from Duran, not related, of course. They got together with the late Brian Palmer and the late Tony Thompson to put together this project. Project becomes a big hit. They decided to tour, but they got Michael DeBarge to do the vocals instead of Palmer, because Palmer had obligations to do his record, Riptide, which will later be released a year later. We don't know the hit song from that record, obviously being Addicted to Love. Now, that album was more uplifting, more boppy, poppy, go get 'em, dance your ass off type of feel. Whereas Arcadia was a lot more darker. Had a lot of good dance songs there, but it was a lot more darker. In fact, I often christened that record The Dark Side of Duran Duran. And this had featured the other three remaining members of Duran Duran. Nick Rhodes, Simon Le Bon, and Roger Taylor, their drummer. And that album had a few guest spots on there. They had a bass player named Mark Agan, who's a well-respected jazz fusion bassist. They had David Gilmour of Pink Floyd doing the guitar on many of the tracks, as I stated before. And they also had Sting singing backups on a song called The Promise. It was a very
Next one I got is...
Go ahead. No, go ahead, dude.
Next one I got is Ashford and Simpson, Solid.
Solid Like a Rock.
Which was a pretty big one about this time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, and I think your voice is cutting out a little bit there, man. I think it is. Now, here's something else. When Ashford and Simpson was doing their stint at Live Aid, they welcomed out Teddy Pendergrass, who has not been on stage since that car wreck a couple years back. When he came reeled out on stage in his wheelchair, the audience went crazy. The ovation he got was outstanding. Unbelievable. And he did say, I thank you. I feel all the love that you are showing me. Definitely.
Bruce Springsteen, I'm on Fire.
Oh, yeah. I'm not too sure what the song is about there. But, it's kind of interesting, It's a very good song when you think about it. Kind of a mystique to it there.
Yep. Method of Modern Love, Daryl Hall and John Oates.
Good song from them. And I guess that's from a Greatest Hits album that they put out at the same time there.
Yeah, then you got David Lee Roth's version of California Girls.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Roth definitely took it to a new level with that video there, his cover version of the Beach Boys classic. In fact, to say that Roth really also owned the charts with that EP he put out called Crazy for the Heat. It was a covers EP.
Yeah.
And of course, you all know the other big single from that album, his Just a Gigolo, Ain't Got Nobody. And of course, that became a big hit, along with the funny ass video that accompanied it as well. And from what I understand, that was supposed to have been made into a movie as well. He signed a deal with CBS Pictures. It was supposed to be described as Purple Rain in reverse. But CBS Pictures went bankrupt, and unfortunately that movie never got made. And during all this, he decided to walk away from Van Halen, leaving the Van Halen brothers and Michael Anthony get all pissed off. So when they got Sammy Hagar, obviously when they put out their album the following year with 5150, of course they were going to take a lot of shots at Roth like they did because they were pissed off of the way he left. I mean, he just he left them hanging.
Right.
Yeah.
Born in the USA, Bruce Springsteen.
Yep. And I understand, there's a lot of dark elements in that song. I was at Lowe's earlier today. I heard that song playing. I was thinking about the description of that song and how the person narrating that song was feeling. He was describing, the hardships he went through, but yet he was still loyal to the country he lived in. Still patriot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Then the last one I got on the list I'm looking at was the aforementioned Sugar Walls by Sheena Easton.
Yep. As I stated, it was written by Prince, who was doing a lot at that time there. And Prince, by the way, he did something very interesting. The album he put out that year, 85, it was supposed to have been kind of like his version of the Sgt. Pepper, Around the World in a Day. He recorded that album prior to going on tour with The Revolution for the Purple Rain tour. He wanted to get that out of the way, so when it was time to put out a new record, yay, it's already made, let's put it out there. Now, sadly, that album didn't sell as much as Purple Rain did, but many said that Prince wasn't trying to accomplish that feat either.
Right.
Right. So I guess we moved
Well,
on.
I got to set the cutoff point.
I guess we are. Yeah, we are. It's about 8:20 Eastern over here. There. So what movie? You said that tomorrow evening for Movie Madness, you wanted to do the Star Trek movies there.
Well, I originally wanted to do the first two,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Star Trek the movie
Mm-hmm.
and Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. But if you haven't seen either one of them,
You know what?
I guess we need to rethink that.
But you know what? I got a better idea. Let's talk about all the Star Trek movies because there was so many that came out afterwards. The Voyage Home,
Well, yeah, there's 6 with the original cast, then you got about umpteen others with other people. You
yeah,
got the Next Generation's got a couple.
yep.
I mean,
The J.J. Abrams directed
I
ones.
don't even know all of them.
Oh man, there was so
I don't
many
even
out.
know all of them.
Yeah, man. I remember seeing the Star Trek directed by J.J. Abrams when I first moved to Texas. Me and my nephew watched it on the streaming TV there. I was like, wow, I was amazed by the effects and everything else as well as the storyline. So definitely we got to look at Star Trek, the movie franchise for sure. Shizzle. I'd say we go with that
Yeah.
topic there. It's for shizzle, man.
Okay.
Okay, definitely. All right, so I guess this
We
ends.
still got YR here?
I don't. Let me check there for a second there. He is here, but
Well, he is online.
I know. Yeah. Why are you there, bud? I guess he. I don't know if his mic is muted or something like that. There, I'm not too sure. But I know he said he would probably be occupied with some stuff tomorrow there, so he may not be able to join us. So I guess it'll be just you and I for tomorrow's program, I guess. Movie Madness. And definitely we'll be taking a look at Star Trek tomorrow evening there. So I guess this is it for tonight's episode of Music Maniacs. And for YR, myself, and Arknolia, we will see you tomorrow evening for our movie show there, alright? You guys take care. And I guess next Wednesday we continue our journey starting with the year 1986. Alright?
Yep.
And we'll see you guys.